Mike, joining us now is Julia Manchester, the Hill politics reporter. Julia, good to see you. You know, before we get started, I want to take a listen because Fox News Digital is on Harvard's campus talking to some of the students about everything that's going on. Take a listen.
There's a sort of feeling among both student and faculty to sort of resist the push that we're feeling from the current administration.
There's certainly a lot of political discrimination. You know, if we were counting the conservative faculty here, you know, you could count them all on one hand.
I don't think Harvard should lose its tax exemptions. I think Harvard is one of the best things America does. It's one of the best things America has.
It mustn't lose its tax exemption. That would force it to close its doors.
Okay, so Harvard's fighting this all the way. They say the Trump administration doesn't sound like it's going to give up anytime soon. You know, the administration is making a safety argument here. Where do you see this going?
Well, look, they're making a safety argument. You have the campus pushing back, adamantly denying any accusations of anti-Semitism or trying to tamp down on those a lot of those protests and some of those, anti-Semitic actions we saw coming out of those protests. But I think this really ends up in the courts, Alicia. We are going to see this battle, I think, drawn on, in the long run. Harvard, unlike some of the other Ivy Leagues like Columbia University, for example, has taken the road of, ultimate resistance. They have, they're essentially showing they are not going to bow down to President Trump in this battle. So I think this continues to be a public relations and legal battle going forward.
Yeah, and the president really going after them where it hurts when it comes to money. Here is the president.
Billions of dollars has been paid to Harvard. How ridiculous is that? Billions. And they have $52 billion as an endowment. They have $52 billion. And this country is paying billions and billions of dollars and then gives student loans and they have to pay back the loans. So Harvard's going to have to change its ways.
So, Juliet, now the president is talking about diverting $3 billion in grant money to trade schools, which is an interesting idea in and of itself. However, I'm just wondering, is that under the purview of the Oval Office, or is it something that Congress takes care of?
Well, I think we'll find that out. I think once again, this goes to the questions about, the legality of all of these moves. And we haven't really been in a situation like this where you have a president sort of trying to divert these funds. We have to remember that Harvard is, of course, a private university. So that's where I think we have a lot of gray area here. But politically, I think that move by the president or the call for him to at least, call on diverting those funds is very interesting because we have seen, the student loan debate really raging on here in the United States, and those who are against that mass student loan debt relief argue that trade schools are a very good alternative for a lot of people looking to get a higher education. And you have President Trump also, I think, with this sending a political message to his own base. Not all of his base, but he has a very strong blue collar base in a number of these swing states and across the country, many of whom have gone to trade schools and may look at elite institutions like Harvard as being completely foreign. So I thought that was an interesting message from the president.
Yeah, we're going to have to watch that one because a lot of ears perked up on that. And before I let you go, I do want to hit on the big, beautiful bill because Republican Senator Ron Johnson of Wisconsin says he's pretty sure he can stop it in the Senate as written. Take a listen.
The only number we ever heard about was $1.5 trillion, which sounds like a lot, but it's only $150 billion per year. And this is put in context of the fact that in 2019, we spent $4.4 trillion. This year, we'll spend over $7 trillion. I think we have enough to stop the process until the president gets serious about spending reduction and reducing the deficit.
Julia, do you think we're going to see the president back up on Capitol Hill soon?
We very well could. I think we knew that this bill was going to change once it got to the Senate. We know that the Senate obviously have very different constituencies than those very specific House districts. However, I think we're going to be seeing some of the same battle lines emerging. You have Ron Johnson and Rick Scott, for example, fighting for, deficit cuts. They want to, cut more in this bill. But then there's another group of senators, including Senator Susan Collins from Maine, who's facing a pretty uphill re-election battle this year in her home state, who are, very much against anything that could be interpreted as a cut to Medicaid or a threat to Medicaid. So once again, we have these fault lines emerging. At least the president or his team will be making some calls in the days ahead.
Well, it's going to be a very interesting summer, that's for sure. Julia Manchester, good to see you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.